How's it going, fellow INFJ folk? So, it's been a while. There's something I've been wanting to get off my chest. It's about being in narcissistic relationships. How many guys can say they have been in a narcissistic relationship? How many guys are willing to admit that they've been in a narcissistic relationship? Which means that you have to admit that you've been abused in some form of way, or you've been the victim to a female. And I know that's pretty hard. It's been a hard thing for me to admit. and that goes into, like, me being an INFJ male, goes into, like, how we attract narcissists. Like, I've heard other female INFJ talk about being in relationships with narcissists. And I was related to a point, and I always think about it, and I wanted to talk about the relationships, and also the relationship that are narcissistic currently. Like, I'm a married man, and I'm not saying my wife is narcissistic, but my daughter is. She's going to be 16. And I know development stage wise, hopefully she gets past it. But I've noticed it developing and getting worse. And so I just like to go back before I indulge in that conversation. As a child, I don't think I really found narcissistic relationships because I isolated myself so much and just kept to myself and avoided going and seeing certain places, or going to certain places, just because of the trauma that I have experienced by seeing things that I didn't want to see or shouldn't have seen. So I think that was like a big reason for why I avoided going places. And when I became a teen in my relationships in those ages, I don't think I really found it. It was more so when I really started young adult relationships. Like my first mother of my oldest child, she's pretty narcissistic. And there's this thing that has occurred to me a lot with these narcissistic relationships and being in a relationship with these type of females, where they, oh my God, what is it called now? Forgive me while I check my list of words. I just want to be a little more exact on what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, it's called reactive abuse. Reactive abuse, which is basically the narcissist or the person who is abusing you, keep on pushing your buttons, keep on edging you on because they want to get a reaction out of you. And once they get that reaction, then they are quick to turn into the victim. And then you start feeling like a horrible person, meaning myself in these situations. I felt like a horrible person for what I did or what I said or how I might have looked at them or however I responded. And I always questioned myself, am I a narcissist? Am I the abuser? Am I the person in the wrong? And that's consistently what these people will be doing in these relationships. And so that's how my first baby mom was. She would be chasing me down and attacking me, and she'd always be punching me. She gave me black eyes before she gave me fat lips. She's throwing Ajax on me just because she wanted me to respond in a negative way. And that was the thing. I didn't know what a narcissist was But I was so confused. I was like, why do you want me to respond this way? I just want to talk through our misunderstanding that we're having so we can work on it and just talk about it. Why can't we just talk? And she'd be yelling at me and screaming at me. And there's multiple times where I've done reactive, or I became reactive, and a lot of them was in defense of myself. So I'd block myself, or I'd swipe her down, or I would hold her down and she'd be screaming. And then there was a couple times where I did accidentally like hit her in defense by blocking myself, and so through that relationship, when I finally got out of it, it was like 3 years on and off in that relationship, and I finally escaped. Pretty much every time, and even after, a lot of the friends that we had, or the people that we knew, she would do this like campaign of how I'm such an abusive person, and I'm such a horrible person, and I'm bad, I'm a bad father, I'm a bad whatever it may be. Anything that would get people to look at me in a negative way, she would say that because I responded or reacted one time. And it was so hurtful to be in that relationship. Like, because I genuinely cared deeply for her. Like, that was my first, like, real committed relationship, and I tried to commit. And it was hard. And especially because we had a child together, I really wanted to make it work. Anyway, but I want full custody of my son, just because I did all the necessary stuff. Parenting classes, Rule 25s, and what do you call? I had to take all these different courses just to make sure that there was no way for the courts to see, like, all right, there might be this potential problem with you. Like, oh yeah, I took anger management. I took everything. And that's how I was able to gain custody of my son. But anyway, so then there was a couple little relationships, but once I noticed the similar things right away, I would walk out of the relationship. And it wasn't until the second mother of my second group of children, where everything was good until she lost, or until her brother was murdered. Then had like triggered something in her brain, and she became bipolar. And the bipolar tendencies were like very narcissistic and evil. And she didn't go as extreme as the first mother of my child. But she got to a point where she was attacking me, hitting me, scratching me, saying all these horrible things, just trying to get a rise out of me again. It's with that reactive abuse, where they just keep on attacking you to get a reaction out of you, and they can say that you're the abuser, but it's a form of abuse. It's called reactive abuse. And it was similar. I had a couple accidents with her saying negative things, and again, like, I felt horrible. I'm like, why? And I like, each time, like, I like pleaded with her, and like try to hold her and cry. I was like, please, I don't want to say this stuff. I don't feel like this. I don't want to feel like this. I just want to love you. Like, and another reason why I stayed in that relationship for so long is because I knew what happened. I knew something triggered in her brain, and I knew she became bipolar, and like, I felt bad. And the thing about me and her, like the second mother, like, we're still friends. After we split up, and she went down her road and I went down my road, but I've always wanted to make sure the mothers of my boys stayed in their lives as much as they could. The first mother, she drifted away and didn't want to be a part, or she didn't want to make the effort. This second mother, she had her struggling times, but because I had a close relationship with her mom and dad, and her dad specifically, are a little bit more, or a lot more actually, is one of the guys that I like really bonded with in a loving way. And so when he was passing, like I felt so bad, and it like tore me up just to go see him on his deathbed and tell him I love him and kiss him. And then when I was holding him and he told me, he was like, take care of my girl. It's like, I know you will. And I was like, I promise I will. And so after all of that, all that family, after he passed, they all went to drug addiction. And I was, from a distance, supported her and encouraged her. Then when she went to treatment, like her current boyfriend at the time wasn't supportive or wouldn't really see her. But I would call her and talk to her privately and just be supportive and try to be encouraging to her, knowing that she's doing it for herself and that our kids will be grateful that she took the necessary steps to make her life better, and just all those other things. And it's like I've always expressed that I always got love for her, and I always will have love for her, and that I do love her, and in a relationship way, not like a loving, I want to be with you relationship. And I never told her what her dad said to me, but I've always held that with me. It's like, I'll take care of her the best way that I can. And so me and her are like a distant good friends. We're kind of almost like best friends in a way, but we keep it in a dark. So yeah, that was semi-narcissistic, and she's gotten a lot better after she sobered up. But then, of course, through that time, there was a couple other relationships after her. Again, I did the same thing. Once I seen the signs, I was gone. I was done. I didn't want to do it. But then there was this girl who was like a childhood crush for me, and we're cool friends, but I never really like noticed things because we never really spent the time with each other. And then we got in a relationship, and her narcissism was different. She wasn't attacking me. She wasn't so much trying to get that reactive abuse. She was belittling me. And she was like make up these crazy lies, like, oh, I did this. So, like one time, it was pretty much the last time I spent with her. I ended up in jail. And it was actually, anyway, so I went to stop and see her. And it was late at night, and like we're casual friends. We had love for each other, but we're long distance. It was a long distance open relationship, and we always enjoyed each other's time in a way. But I always knew her tendencies. Oh, this was after we had that relationship and we split up, and I moved to a different area, and because it wouldn't work, and I knew what she was being was pretty narcissistic. Anyway, so the last time was I went to go visit her one night, but then when I stopped over, she gave me a little drink, and I was tired. I took a little sip and I fell asleep. Anyway, when I was sleeping, my phone was going off, and it was the second mother of my child, and they start arguing while I was sleeping. And so, because they argued and they said some, I don't know what really was said, but they're arguing about me and doing things, and so what the girl did that I was in a relationship with, she pretty much trashed her kitchen. Yes. And she banged herself up. I don't know how I didn't hear it. Like I said, that was only one drink of sober. But I was really, really tired, so I don't know how I heard it. Then I was woken up by cops, and they had the light flashing in my eye. And they're like, "Hey," pushing me. I was like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And they're like, we got to go. We got to get you out of here. I was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Hey." I was calling out that girl's name, and I was like, "What's going on? Where you at? Where's she at? What's going on?" I was confused, and they're like, "We just got to get you out of the house." Then when we were coming by the kitchen, I was seeing her standing there, and she was glaring at me. I was like, "What's going on?" Then when we got outside, and they took me without my shoes and without my car, and they had to go throw me in jail. I'm like, "But why?" Then as they're walking me out to tell me that evidently what her story was that I got drunk, I pissed myself, I ran outside, and I was being really, really crazy, and she tried to chase me out there and like, "What are you doing?" And she started saying I was pushing her, then started hitting her, then ran inside to grab my keys, and she chased me back inside. Then I started throwing her around, and that's why everything got trashed. And yeah, that's when she said she was able to call the cops, and because the cops were coming, I ran into the couch and flopped down and started fake sleeping. I was like, "Ha!" I was like, "That didn't happen." I was like, "You can check me. Look at it. I didn't piss myself. Like, I didn't do none of that. Like, my feet ain't even cold or wet or dirty or nothing." And they're like, "Yeah, I know." I was like, "Unfortunately, it's just because a female called and reported that we got to put you in. You're just going to end up sitting overnight. Then you'll get released. And you got to figure out how to get your car and just get away from her and go home." Anyway, wish it was that easy. It kind of was. I ended up getting my car back, and like that was pretty much the last time I seen her. Like, of course, she would call me and trying to meet up with me, and of course I felt bad because then she got caught up on drugs too, and like I felt bad because it started affecting how she looked. I'm like, "Oh no. Why are you doing this to yourself? How?" And she's finding that way. That was the thing. All of them, once they knew they got into my heart and they got my emotional part, they knew they got me and they could influence me and treat me negatively. Anyway, so how I got out of that, I just had to block her, and I told her, I was like, "I'm done. I'm no more." Because she was threatening on breaking up my relationship between me and my wife before we became husband and wife, because we're still friends, and that's all I wanted to do is just like be friends. But anyway, she threatened on making all these claims and making up all these lies, and I was like, "It's gotta end." I was like, "I'm gonna delete you. I'm gonna block you. Don't try and contact me. I'm not gonna respond. I'm changing my number. I'm doing all of this stuff. Like I wanted to be friends, but it can't happen." And that was it. And she did find me on Facebook, and she did try to send me messages, but because I have messages blocked, and I had her blocked, there were message requests, and she tried to bring up some sort of conversation. I almost got me. It was about my first baby mom, like, 'cause she knew she knew of my first baby mom. She tried to bring up something like, I need to tell you about this. And she was like, a month later, she's like, please, I need to talk to you. I didn't give in. I just deleted them. It's crazy how they find things and they use it just because they can make you feel like they have some sort of control over you. And I don't know if it's because I'm big as well, because I'm like 6'3", and they're like all like 5'3", 5'5", 5'6". That's kind of like my majority of height range with relationships, females that I got into. So I don't really know why, but I know it's just because of the kindness, and like they get to take advantage of me and they feel powerful doing it. I'm pretty sure that's why. So then that brings me to the now, where one of my daughters over the past 2 years has like really taken on narcissistic, qualities or behaviors. And it's really, really disheartening. And she's the one who is an ESFP. And it's like once she knew she had her mom's side, she could turn anything against me. And that's, and like, this is the reason why I didn't want to bring it up, is because I feel bad again for talking about my wife in this way. And I also feel bad for talking about any of my kids in this way. And I think about her like she's not my biological child. And she does have issues with not having a real father around, but then also issues that she just found out that her biological father has raped her other sisters, and one of her sisters committed suicide because of it. And I don't know. And it's just like, my parenting style is very, very structured. I had a stepfather who was militant with me. He has passed, and he is what do you call? Oh, I forgot what. He's not an army. I can't remember what the word is. But he was in the military. And that's why he was militant with me. And I caught on real quick, and I was like, yeah, okay. This is what I got to do. This is how I got to do it. And all right. And it was very structured, and I understood why the structure was there. And also with all my parenting classes and all my other courses and all my everything that I educated myself on about parenting and behavior and all of this, all talked about having structure. And so that's like that was all my reinforcement and my ideology of how I was going to be a parent. And yeah, and they rebelled against it once we moved to this new area because they had new friends. And then the wife, she was able to feel like, oh, I'm the cool mom. And the reason why it's another hurtful thing is because what I did as a father with all of the mothers of my children was like, I took the initiative and said, I'll do it all. Because I was working every time, and when I would come back, they'll complain about everything, and they say they can't handle it, and they didn't want to handle it, and I was like handing it off to me, and I was like, okay. And so I just took on that responsibility. It's like, don't do this, don't do that. Just take care of them while I'm gone, and I'll take care of everything else. I'll take care of the schooling. I'll take care of the motivational. I'll take care of changing them. I'll take care of events. I'll take care of all of the stuff. I'll make sure that they stay structured, because none of them wanted to take on the structured ways of parenting that I did. And their excuses were because I never went through them courses, and I felt cheated because they never, for me, it's like they never cared enough to take on and learn these ways. Like, and that's what I did it for. I learned all of that stuff because I cared and I wanted to be the best that I could. But because they didn't, I felt that they're taking advantage of me, taking advantage of their situation, and not letting love guide them, you know? And so I got to that point with my wife where she couldn't handle it either. And I seen it as like, well, yeah, we got 7 kids together. We call ourselves like the Brady Bunch plus 1. So she came with 3 and I came with 3. Then we had 1 together. But then, yeah, she couldn't handle the stress of it and cleaning up after them. And I would tell her, it's like, well, you don't clean up after them. They have to learn the responsibilities to clean up after themselves, because it's a form of habits. It's habit forming. And once they develop these habits, then it'll become habitual throughout their life, where they know how to pick up after themselves, clean up after themselves, and live a structured life, because it makes life easier or more understandable, or just, you know. Anyway, so my wife couldn't do it, and she was stressed out. It's too much for her. So I did the same thing with her. I said, all right, don't worry about it. I'll take care of all of this. So don't stress out about it. I'll take care of it. And that's what I did for 10 years. It was like me going to work full time, then having gigs on the side, doing entrepreneurial work and contract work, but then also making sure I did the motivational and mind development and all the structure for the kids. And stuff happened throughout the time, but it was hard though. Like, all of it was hard. And that's where I was able to like suck everything up and not show the emotions, because I didn't want her to see how hard it was for me. I didn't want any of them to see how hard it was for me, because they showed me how hard it was for them. And I was like, I can't express my feelings to anybody. And that's how I am now. I can't express my feelings to anybody. I can't express my feelings to my wife even, really. Because it's just kind of like, oh, what do? I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to say? And at times, like, all I can say is like, yeah, I love you. I wish you didn't feel that way. And it's like nothing can take that pain away from me. And so anyway, it led into my daughter's turning in teens, and so the wife getting that option to be, oh, I'm the cool mom. And she was like letting friends come over, and that's when she started breaking the structure that we've had with the older boys, where you don't get privileges until you take care of business. You know, privileges are earned, and that's what they are. They're privileges. To have internet access, to have a phone, to have a laptop, to go hang out with friends. Like, your grades got to be a certain grade level. Everything's got to be taken care of. Like, there's no play until we get through the work. Work hard, play hard, Anyway, so that's how she was treating it all. And for me, I was like, we can't do that. And she kept on rebelling. Or the wife kept on like going behind my back, like, all right, you guys can do this and you guys can do that, and don't tell dad type of thing. And I was like, you can't do that. Then it got into where they're going spending the nights, and I knew and I seen what was going on, and I was like, these girls are getting drunk, they're doing all of this stuff, and she's like, no, they're not. I was like, I can see it in their behaviors, I can see it in their grades, I can see it in how everything is changing for them. And she's like, no, they're just being with their friends. This is what girls do. These girls are extroverted. They need to be around friends and all this and that. And I'm like, no. And she resorted into like, that's kids being kids. Kids have to be kids. And I'm like, no, kids don't have to go do negative stuff and try negative things. And that's not being a kid. That's doing wrong things. We can't let our kids, that's why we're parents. We can't let our kids go out and do wrong things and get hurt and get in trouble and all of this stuff. We're supposed to guide them and protect them. That's why we're parents. I'd say, yeah, but she wouldn't follow through. And because I was gone working, I couldn't really do nothing about it. And it was so stressful. And it just got worse. And once they knew that they could sneak out, and mom would go ahead and let them get away with it, then stuff happened. And I felt bad because stuff happened to them, or to one of them, the narcissistic one. And now she has that on her, and like, even with the whole, like, well, we got to get them into therapy. And I already knew what was needed to be done for therapeutic things to do. And that's what I was trying to have them do, was to get them away from the negative influences, which would be social media and the friends who were negative influences. Again, that's parenting. Like, we got to do that. It's part of the structure. And then to have them do therapeutic type of things like drawing, getting back into drawing and journaling and all of these other things. And that's what I was trying to do. And she was like, yeah, no. She just kind of like brushed off what I've known were therapeutic methods. And we got to get them into therapy. All right, then get them into therapy. And of course, they didn't really want to talk to the therapist. But then all the therapist did was echo everything that I was saying. And she never followed through on it. And it got to a point where they're sneaking out. I saw them when I came back, and then an accident happened where I pushed my daughter and she got hurt. Then my daughter got what you call child services involved, trying to say I was abusive. And it wasn't. There was a whole investigation and everything. Investigation stopped, and I don't know, it was hectic. But anyway, so what I've really tried to do since then is like really, really hard. I've become a distant type of parent in my own house with my own kids. Like, I can't say nothing to them. Like, I can say stuff to them, but if I say anything to them, the girls will turn it around on me and they go complain to mom, and all they gotta do is say this or that, and the mom would take their side. Like, I would say simple things like they need to clean up, and they're like, well, the boys don't clean up. And honestly, like, I'm the one who's always making sure people clean up, like every other day, and it's always the boys. The girls, they run into their room, they hide, they don't do nothing, or they leave. And it's so frustrating. And all they gotta do is just say otherwise to their mom, and their mom believes them. And I'm being unreasonable. And so it's like been a very, very, very trying time these last 2 years. And it has like this last year has this, like I'm very, what do you call, where I can take something and set it in the back and not think about it and just focus on the now, you know? And that's how I try to be. Like, after I vent through to myself about the situations and my frustrations with what the girls are doing and how unfair it is for the boys that they don't really have to do their chores or have any chores to really do, and that it ends up in arguments between me and the wife. And like, even with schooling, ever since the structure has been taken away, they went from students that were getting A's and B's to now they're getting C's and B's and F's. That specific daughter is getting almost all F's. And the wife is just like, oh, we need to get her in therapy. And I'm just like, oh my God. Therapy? In my mind, I'm like, you can't send someone to therapy if you're not enforcing what therapy is saying at home. It's just like someone going to treatment, coming back out, or being in outpatient treatment and coming back home and having narcotics around. It's unhealthy. It's not going to work. And because that's all she does is just keep on letting her get her negative sources to however she wants, and it just like really built up into that narcissistic thing, and that's what this specific daughter does, is the reactive abuse towards me. And that, again, that goes into like, here I am, a guy, and here I am, a father, saying this about my own child, like being abusive to me. Like, what the heck is that? I sound like a punk ass dad. I sound like a punk ass man, whatever it may be. And the fact that it hurts so much, because I have no right as being a father. I'm not a real father. I'm not a real parent. That's how it feels. That's why it hurts so much. Like, I have legit thoughts at least a couple times a week of, I could just, it's pointless of being a dad. It's pointless being a husband. It's pointless of being alive. Like, my purpose of being a father is to be a father. And if that's taken away from me, and everything that I learned and educated on, it's I can't do it. And because that's these give higher results. What's the point? What's the point of even being around? You know? And just to see the look in my daughter's eyes when she knows she's won. That's what it looks like in her. She's like, like, it's devilish in a way, because she never apologizes for anything. And I'm always apologizing for any way that I've ever gotten to my kids or even to my wife. I apologize for taking a tone or saying anything or whenever I get mad or frustrated, I'm the one who always apologizes. And it's rare that people apologize to me, and I just said it like a month ago. It's like, you guys ever wonder why I never show my feelings to y'all? It's because whenever I say how I feel or what's frustrating me or what's hurting me, what makes me feel sad, you guys dismiss it, or you guys look negatively at it. Like, oh, you're tripping, or oh, why don't you stop talking like that, or chill out, or oh, like they minimize how I'm feeling. And I never do that to any of them. Like, I comfort them, I try and support them, I listen to them, and no one ever does it to me. Rarely. And it's hard because my wife, she does it at times, but then it's still that thing where she doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know what to do about it. She can't take my pain away. And a lot of it is because of this. A lot of it is because she doesn't let me hold her. A lot of it, she doesn't give that physicality to me. That she doesn't support me as a father. And that was another thing that I always plead to her about. It's like, we're parents. Like, through all this time, I've always said whenever they had a disagreement with something that you're saying, I was like, she's your mother. You listen to her. Ask her why. But when it came to me, it was you got to think about what you're saying, or think about what you're doing, or you're being unreasonable, or you're being mean, or you shouldn't raise your voice, and I was like, oh my God, like, it's separation between us. And like, yeah, these are all reasons why I feel like, what's the point? And I get it, like, the whole thing with marriage, you got to work through it. You got to get through it. Marriage is forever. But it's freaking hard when you got a narcissist in the family and people turn against you because of it, or look down upon you because of it, and your purpose of being a man, or a husband, or a father is taken away from you in your own household, and how that affects the whole household, and how that looks on the whole household, and how it makes the boys feel. And my other daughter, who tries to understand and listen, it's chaotic. And I feel like I'm the only one who sees it, and the only one who tries to work at it, but I can't. Because if I say anything, that daughter knows it just takes one thing. She goes, tells mom. Even when just recently, she did the same thing. All I was just asking her to do is help clean up, and just start talking back, and didn't not want it to. And I was like, and I gave her a shoulder shove. I was like, come on, man, why you gotta talk back? Why don't you just do it? It was just a shoulder shove, like that. She said, don't touch me. Don't touch me. And that was that whole same thing, like what she did before. And it's just like, it's just re-triggered that for me. And to even go into any physical part, like what I've done with all my kids was teach them how to defend themselves. I taught them how to throw punches. I taught them how to protect themselves. I taught them how to use their weight. I taught them how to use other people's weight against them, and to throw them, and how to stand, and how to take a hit, and all of these things. These are all the things that I taught them. I just taught them basics. And so when I use physicality with them, it's a norm. And so that one can change it. And she uses anything and everything that she can have into making her sound like she's a victim and turn it against anybody. The wife chooses her side. And I told my kids yesterday, I was actually this yesterday, I said, I don't know what to do, how to feel. It's like I try so hard. I don't, like, and those thoughts go through my head. I don't want to be a father. I don't want to be a husband. Because I can't. And that's how this is, how being in a relationship with a narcissist has always felt for me. Like, I feel so hopeless because I care so much. I want the best. I want this relationship to work. But then I can't be in it. I don't want to be in it. I don't want to hurt. I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to feel anger. I don't want to feel aggression. I don't want to feel negative. And it gets to that point, like, you just don't want to feel. You want the feelings to go away. And it's hard because you are a parent and you have to. It's hard because you're a father or a husband and you have to. But then you have no one to talk to. Because you're a guy and people dismiss it. And people look at every little piece in there and say, like, well, you shouldn't be this way. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't say this. You shouldn't do this or that. And I get it, like, even how to not be victim of a narcissist is to not, but it's easier said than done. And, like, how is an INFJ supposed to stop it? How is an INFJ supposed to walk away from it if it always finds you? How? As an INFJ male, how? It hurts. I'm suffering. Like straight up. But I have to smile every day. I can't show them how I really feel. I can't tell anybody how I really feel. Well, this is me telling somebody, I just don't know. If you listen, thank you for listening. If you can relate, if you have words of encouragement or resources or anything, I greatly appreciate it. This is only channel like where I ever tell a little bit of stuff that frustrates me or gets to me in a certain way. I don't know if they don't see this or not. I don't know. This is a pretty private channel for me. And like I said, I feel bad for even bringing it up. I've been talking about this stuff. I don't know. Anything helps. Thank you.